There's a road in upstate New York with a gas station, a rock shop, and a church at a dead end. 3 buildings. No people, no birds, no wind, no insects. And a woman standing in the middle of that road, feeling the church look back at her. 29 years later, she's still trying to find that town on a map. So is her mother. Neither of them ever has. I'm Carol Ann. Welcome to the In-Between. I know you love you some time slip stories. So we went digging deep and uncovered 3 of them that are going to blow you away. And just so you know, you might want to make sure you stick around because you just might be able to add a new word to your strange and mysterious vocabulary bingo card. This encounter comes to us from one of our very own in-betweeners named Barbie. It's the spring of 1997. Barbie, who is in her early 20s, is on a trip with her mom, Donna, and her stepdad, John, from Hackettstown, New Jersey, to go up north to Burlington, Vermont, to visit some relatives. And they've been driving for a while, watching endless trees pass by, when Donna says she's gonna need a bathroom break pretty soon. Okay, duly noted. And they keep driving. They're on a plain 2-lane road cutting through the endless forest. Nothing unusual for the Northeast. Between her own thoughts and her handheld Yahtzee game, Barbie is pretty much in her own world when John pipes up, asking if either of the girls has seen any signs for a rest stop or even a town for that matter. Barbie immediately looks out the window, like she's going to be able to see something that John missed. But she and her mom both say, nope, and they keep driving. But now, Barbie keeps her face glued to the window, scanning for any sign, eager to solve the where did civilization go mystery. 10 minutes pass. No signs. 20 minutes. Still none. At the 45-minute mark, there's still nothing. No signs for anything, anywhere. Sure, they're out in the middle of nowhere, but it's pretty hard to go that long without seeing anything. Mile markers, intersections, something. After about 90 minutes of silence, broken only by Donna complaining she needs a bathroom, they finally see a sign. And immediately, 2 things stand out to Barbie. First, it's black with white lettering, which in most states, road signs are usually green with white lettering. Second is the name, Loon Lake. She asks her mom if that's where New Yorkers keep the crazy people and gets the mandatory chuckle and eye roll response that parents are required to give to a bad but funny joke. They see a road exiting off the highway, but with no sign. Odd, since every highway exit she's ever seen is marked. But they take it anyway, because poor Donna's bladder is about to explode, and everyone could use a stretch and some snacks. Then, the fog happens. Not the beautiful silvery kind that drifts in. This is instant. One moment, the late afternoon sun is out, and the next, fog is everywhere, like a wash of gray paint over everything. As they drive, the tree-lined road starts curving to the right. Not a huge deal, except that right curve goes on for about 10 minutes. There's no way to go that far on a curve like that without just making a big circle. But it never does. At the same time, the radius ain't mathin' in Barbie's head. John notices the same geometry-defying problem. But before either of them have a chance to discuss it, they break out of the fog. It's still hazy, but it's not pea soup anymore, and the road straightens out. Barbie thinks,
you've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
After a while, the trees thin into a clearing. A green cinder-block gas station with 2 pumps appears on the right, looking like it came straight out of Mayberry. But it has an open sign on the door. Great. Directly across the street, so on their left, is a small brown log cabin with a glass door and a single picture window. It's a rock and gem shop, and it also has an open sign on the door. And straight ahead, less than 200 feet, is a dead end and a church. And that's it. Just 3 buildings that look wildly out of context with each other. But the church, and I use that term loosely, is the real attention grabber. It looks like an old one-room schoolhouse with a tall steeple, gray siding, and a black roof. But not just black. It's like center of a black hole, voided space black. Barbie doesn't know if it's the 80s horror movie fog hanging around or her own intuition, but something about that church strikes her as being about as far from godly as you can get, and absolutely terrifying. They all get out of the car. Donna makes a beeline for the gas station. John and Barbie stretch their legs, and Barbie tells him she's going to go check out the rock shop. John says, fine, we'll be here. Now, despite how off this whole situation feels, Barbie's kind of excited about this rock shop. She's always loved geology. As she makes her way across the crumbling, fog-frosted road, it hits her. The silence. No frogs, no insects, no wind, no birds, no other people, no other cars, even back at the gas station. And as someone who spent a fair amount of time in the woods with her dad teaching her survival skills, she knows what that kind of silence usually means. Something dangerous is close by. She keeps walking anyway. Halfway across the road, she feels it. The sensation of being watched. Not the ordinary, disapproving church lady kind of stare. This is different. It is calm, invasive, totally consuming, and evil. Something letting her know, I see you, and I really don't like you. Barbie's felt that fight or flight panic before. What she's feeling isn't that. This feels like something entirely new, something that reaches all the way through her soul. She looks down the road, straight at the church standing at the dead end. It's the church watching her. The church hates her, specifically and completely. Barbie pushes the feeling down and keeps walking toward the rock and gem shop. It's a small store, so she doesn't expect a whole lot, but when she goes in, she's super bummed to see that the shelves are pretty much empty. She thinks, well, I guess there's not much of a market in a town with 3 buildings. Maybe they're going out of business. At first, she doesn't see anyone else around, but then her eye catches someone else in the shop. A black, wrinkly, lumpy, person-shaped thing, either bending down or sitting behind the counter. Not a person in wrinkled clothing. Its entire mass is wrinkled and lumpy, like a Shar-Pei. Barbie can't recall any details about it, even though she's standing there looking directly at it, as though her brain refuses to process the information. It has to be a person. It has to have a face, a body, clothes. But there's nothing there but a wrinkled, lumpy, black mass. To this day, Barbie struggles to make sense of what she was looking at in that moment. It just doesn't make any sense. Logically, it has to be a person, but it's not. No face, no head, nothing human except the general shape of one. Her brain short circuits. For a split second, she goes mentally numb, manages an insane sort of smile, nods slightly, and walks backward out of the shop. She crosses the road, trying and failing to hide the fact that she's kind of in a hurry, and gets into the car. Her mom and John are already inside. Silent. John starts the car. Barbie half expects it not to start, because isn't that what always happens in these kind of situations? Thankfully, it does. John makes a U-turn and drives back out of town. Barbie doesn't even look out the window. They finally reach an on-ramp free of the strange fog and merge onto the interstate. Nobody says anything until Barbie leans forward between the seats and says, "Is it just me? Or is that creepy as hell?" John answers, slowly but blankly, "There wasn't any people, and I couldn't pump any gas." Barbie is pretty sure something more happened than what he's letting on, because he is clearly freaked out. Her mom, in the same flat, shaky tone, adds, "There wasn't anyone inside either. I just walked around until I found a sign for the restroom. It was weird. There's no water in the toilet, no way to flush it, and no sink. She leans forward, grabs her purse like she's on autopilot, and grabs her hand sanitizer. Barbie studies the both of them. Their eyes aren't wide with shock. They're like trauma vacant. Something has shaken them both to the core. It isn't until they find a gas station back in the regular world that any of them start talking again. But no one says a word about what they saw. In the years since, Barbie has tried to go back and find this place again, but no luck. Her best guess is that maybe the town exists exactly as they saw it, and she simply can't find it again. Or maybe it was torn down. She and her mom didn't talk about that day very often. In fact, Barbie never even told her about the black, lumpy mass thing that she saw because she didn't want to freak her out more than she already was. But they both agreed something deeply strange happened. Looking back at her mom's reaction, though, she sometimes wonders if her mom saw more than she admitted to. Donna, as it turns out, tried to find the place too, just for her own peace of mind. Neither of them ever could. Barbie says she doesn't know if it was a glitch in the Matrix or something else entirely. She's well aware of how crazy it sounds, and before this happened, she'd be the first person rolling her eyes at someone else telling this story. But it's the church that stays with her. It's part of why she converted to Christianity, knowing that a feeling like that, an evil like that, actually exists somewhere. The sense of being watched has faded into the background over the years, but it's still there. It still hates her fully and completely. And she feels like it's waiting for something. And she really doesn't want to find out what. This story is well known among you Bermuda Triangle fans. And even though that's the arena that usually talks about it, I think it fits in perfectly with our time slip, time glitch theme. December 4th, 1970, Andros Island in the Bahamas. Late afternoon, just past 3 o'clock. Bruce Gerson and his father had been flying their own plane in and out of the Bahamas since 1967. They'd made this Andros to Miami run a dozen times before. They have a brand new Beechcraft Bonanza A36. And on this trip, there's a third man on board, business associate named Chuck Lafayette. Everything about the setup says routine. But right off the runway at Androstown, that changes. Dead ahead, maybe a mile out, there is a cloud sitting low over the ocean. It's elliptical, kind of lens-shaped. Nothing out of the ordinary, except this one's hovering at about 500 feet, which is not where that kind of cloud is supposed to be. Miami Flight Service comes back over the radio and says the weather's cleared. Okay, they keep climbing. And the cloud keeps pace with them, climbing at 1,000 feet a minute, right alongside their airplane, until it actually engulfs them. They're inside the cloud for about 10 minutes, climbing blind before the plane finally breaks out at 11,500 feet into open sky. Bruce levels off, pushes the plane toward its max cruising rate of 195 miles an hour. When he glances back at what they'd just flown through, it's not the same cloud anymore. It's ballooned into an immense squall, curved into a semicircle that just keeps growing past the edge of what he can see. 10 miles of visibility, and the thing still isn't done. This thing has to be 20 plus miles across. And a few minutes later, it's behind them, gone from view. Fine. Except now, there's another cloud dead ahead again, this time near Bimini. Same general look as the one they just escaped, but this one tops out at 60,000 feet. And as they get closer, it becomes clear that this thing isn't just hanging in the sky. It's rooted to the surface of the ocean itself. And they fly into it anyway. Inside, and this is where it stops sounding like weather, it goes black. No rain, but the visibility drops to 4 or 5 miles. No lightning either, just these hard, extraordinarily bright white flashes lighting up the whole space around them. And the deeper in they push, the more frequent the flashes get. It doesn't take long before Bruce second guesses his decision to try to fly through this front. 27 minutes into the flight, he banks 135 degrees left, pointing the plane due south, trying to get out the way they came in, hoping they can get back out to the edge and just fly around it. 2 or 3 minutes later, they figure out that's not going to happen. The front curves east in a smooth, deliberate arc, like it was drawn with a compass. 2 minutes after that, the picture clicks into place, and it's the kind of realization that makes your stomach drop. The cloud they'd flown through near Andros and the one they're inside right now near Bimini, they're the same formation. One ring, a closed loop of storm, roughly 30 miles across, that had apparently formed off Andros and spread outward into a perfect donut with them caught somewhere on the inside of it. No way under, no way over, just walls of clouds. After another 5 minutes, he spots a break, a U-shaped gap on the western edge of the ring. It looks like this could be his only option, so he takes it. As they close in, the two arms of that U start folding toward each other, closing into a tunnel. A horizontal shaft, roughly a mile wide, running more than 10 miles through the cloud, with clear blue sky visible at the far end. And it's shrinking as they watch it. Bruce pushes the throttle up, 230 miles an hour, which is red line territory for that plane. By the time they're actually inside the tunnel, its diameter has narrowed down to 200 feet. What had looked like a 10-mile passage now looks like it's barely a mile long. But Bruce can still see the afternoon sun coming through the far opening, lighting up cloud walls that are perfectly round, silky white, and still getting smaller. Around the edges, smaller gray puffs of cloud spin counterclockwise, tracking along the walls like something turning on an axis. 20 seconds. That's how long they're inside it before they come out on the other side. And in those last few seconds, gravity lets go, and they all feel a pull of forward momentum that shouldn't be there. Bruce looks back to see the tunnel collapse behind them into a slit rotating clockwise, and then it's gone. Every instrument in the cockpit is lying to him now. The compass is steadily spinning, even though the plane's flying dead straight. He gets Miami on the radio and gives his position, 45 miles southeast of Bimini, heading west, 10,500 feet. Miami comes back and says, "Are you sure? We don't see anything on radar anywhere near that position." Bruce takes a minute to really assess what's going on around him, and then discovers that, unlike the promise of the literal light at the end of the tunnel, they're now flying through this dull, gray-white haze. The air is stable. There's no lightning, no rain, and visibility is over 2 miles, and yet somehow he can't make out the ocean, the horizon, or the sky, which means there's no way for him to fix a position. It dawns on him that whatever this gray soup is that they're flying through has to be some kind of electronic fog, because whatever it is, it's the thing screwing up all of his instruments. He can't see any landmarks. He's totally flying on instinct. They're in the fog for 3 minutes. Then Miami radios back. They've got an aircraft directly over Miami Beach, heading due west. Bruce checks his watch. 34 minutes of flight time. That's not possible. At that point in the route, they should still be well short of Miami, still looking for Bimini. He tells the controller they've got the wrong plane. He's still 90 miles southeast of Miami, still looking for islands that should be right in front of him. And then the fog just falls apart. Long, horizontal lines cutting through the gray on either side, widening into slits with blue sky bleeding through. After only 8 seconds, every slit has joined into one open sky, and the haze is gone entirely. The sun is shining right into Bruce's eyes, which take a few seconds to adjust, but when they do, straight below them is Miami Beach. They land at Palm Beach. He does the math afterward and comes up with a total flight time of just under 47 minutes. His first thought is that the instrument timer's broken. Except all 3 of these men were wearing watches, and all 3 read the same time, 3:48 p.m., and they'd left Andros at just a hair past 3 o'clock. But that doesn't make any sense. He'd flown that Andros to Palm Beach route before, plenty of times, and the fastest he'd ever made it, flying a straight line, was 75 minutes. This flight was nowhere near a straight line. Between the detours around the storm and the donut cloud, they'd probably covered something close to 250 miles of actual track. 250 miles in 47 minutes. That's almost 320 miles an hour, well past the 230 mile per hour top speed of their plane. Once they were safely on terra firma, nobody on that flight talked about it. Not for a long time. But Bruce kept running it in his head anyway, a few times a day, because something about it sat wrong. It wasn't until 1972 when he first heard people talking about a so-called Bermuda Triangle and the idea that boats and planes vanishing out there might have something to do with time itself rather than just weather or navigation error, that a piece clicked into place for him. Not distance, time. By his own math, the tunnel alone, 10 to 15 miles long, should have taken roughly 4 minutes to fly through at their speed, which it did. Except they didn't come out 90 miles from Miami, which is where the physics said they should have been. They came out on top of it. A distance that should have taken 30 minutes was instead covered in 4 minutes, with no gaps in Bruce's memory or his watch to explain it. This story comes to us from Terry Cox from the Association for Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, or ASSAP. Terry interviewed the witnesses in person, who were both in their 70s, and published the story in 2021, roughly 60 years after it happened. Just a note before we start this story, ASSAP made the editorial decision before publishing the story to change the names of the town and the roads. So we don't know exactly where this happened, but it's somewhere in the southeast of England. So don't spend your evening looking for it on a map. August 1941. Two sisters, 20 and 18, get off a bus at St. Mary Road with one thing on their minds: a dance in the village of Upper St. Mary, about 3 miles up a road they'd walked and biked 100 times before. It's about 6:20 in the evening, and it's just a regular, unremarkable, warm summer evening. The road they're walking on runs past a place called Home Farm, and Home Farm has dogs. Nasty ones. The kind you can pedal past on a bike without a second thought, but on foot at dusk, headed to a dance in your good shoes, that's a different story. So the sisters make a small decision, a completely unremarkable decision. They'll jump off the road, loop around the farm inside the hedge line, and rejoin the road on the other side, past the dogs. By this time, it's about 6:40 p.m. They pass a haystack in the first field, cross into a second green field, and then head for the hedge to climb back onto the road. And that's where it stops being a small decision. They climb what they think is the roadside hedge. They drop down on the other side, and instead of a road under their feet, it's plowed earth. Wrong field. Fine. It happens. Except both women independently describe the same next detail. Even though it's not even 7 o'clock on a late summer evening, the moment they land in that plowed field, it's dark. Not dusk dark, dark. And hanging over them is a moon neither of them can explain. They didn't see it rise. It's just there. And it's enormous, red, and glimmering in a way that doesn't match how dark everything around it seems. Well, okay. They've obviously made a mistake somewhere, so they climb another hedge and land in another plowed field with no gate, no gap to get out. So they climb again. Same thing. Over and over. And the whole time, they can still see the tall trees marking Home Farm off in the distance. They can still hear those dogs. Every so often, a car passes on the road, which is pretty rare in 1941, but it happens. And each time it's a small, reassuring proof that the ordinary world is still out there, just on the other side of a hedge that they can't seem to get back to. Eventually, they find a gap. The ground is kind of marshy, and they can hear the sound of a stream behind a line of alder trees. They don't cross it. They're very adamant about that, and we'll come back to why that's a thing very soon. They double back through the gap instead, and this time they spot something they missed before, a gate. Next to the gate, set into the hedge, is a tall white pillar. Not granite, which is the kind of stone you see all over. The whole area is built from granite. But this white stone is sticking out like a sore thumb, and it's making noise. A loud, regular squeak over and over coming from the pillar itself. Now keep in mind that as this whole little adventure has been unfolding, both girls have had this feeling of dread, that something is just not right, getting stronger and stronger the more fields they've been crossing. But seeing and hearing that pillar ratchets up that feeling well past a 10.
These go to 11.
And these girls were not timid little hothouse flower town girls. They were country girls. They knew this area, and they didn't freak out if an owl flew over their heads. So if that pillar scared them enough to make them run past it, over the gate, out onto an unfamiliar road, that's saying something. However, as soon as their feet hit the other side of the gate, that feeling of wrongness completely disappears. Across the road, there's a cottage with a gate and a front path leading right to the door. They knock, and a man answers. The girls are a little weirded out. Not because the man answered, he just looked like a regular guy, but because of how fast he answered. It's like he was just standing by the door waiting for them. He looks at their legs, takes in their torn stockings and the scratches, and says the kind of thing you'd expect a stranger to say to two girls who look like they've been running around in a field all day, showing up at his door after dark. What the blazes have you two been up to? His heavy local accent makes him feel a little less like a stranger. So the two girls tell him about their shortcut and subsequent romp through the fields trying to find their way back to the road, and how this road is not the one they expected to come out to, and that now they have no idea where they are. And can he help them? He sure can. He tells them where they are, which places them 2 miles on the other side of town, which is wrong. Flatly geographically wrong. And they know it's wrong even as he's saying it. But he gives them directions. Keep going, turn right at the crossroads, and you're in Upper St. Mary. And it works. They reach the crossroads and they recognize where they are right away. But that can't be right. To reach that stretch of road from where they'd been wandering, they would have had to cross the stream, the one they were certain they never crossed. And somehow they'd come out a full mile from where they'd first left the road to begin with. They finally make it to the dance 4.5 hours later. That's how much time had passed since they stepped off the bus for what should have been a 40-minute walk. They peel off their ripped-up stockings and notice that even though they'd been climbing hedge after hedge and pushing through waist-high brambles, everything else about their clothing is totally fine. Not a single tear anywhere else. They enjoy what little is left of the dance and take a taxi home when it's over. And as far as either of them knows, after 60 years, that's the only bit of strangeness either of them ever experienced. Life moves on the way life does. War, marriage, distance. Until decades later when one of the sisters goes looking for that cottage and finds nothing. No structure, no foundation, nothing. They assume it got destroyed in the war. There was a military airfield and an airstrip nearby. Lots of buildings didn't survive that stretch of the 1940s. Reasonable assumption. Except when they actually go digging and looking at old maps, including one from 1879, there's no cottage there. Not destroyed, just not there. Ever. No building on that side of the road at all, on any map either of them can find. The gate is still there, though it's been reset to face the road square on instead of that odd angle that they remembered. Now, as of their 2021 interview, both of these women were not only still alive, but as sprightly as ever and as sharp as tacks. They laughed off the fields themselves, saying they must have been pixelated. Not pixelated as in an 80s Atari video game, the word their grandmothers would have used for exactly this kind of night, being confused and led astray by pixies. And they had never even heard the phrase time slip. But the house, they couldn't laugh off. They kept coming back to one detail. The front door was solid, wooden, and real. They knocked on it. What they have decided happened is very simple. Whatever that man and that cottage were, the family's read on it is that they were just sent to help the girls. A guardian, if you will. Small footnote, in that same village, a man once went out into a field he knew like the back of his hand to collect some weeds for his birds, and got so completely lost he couldn't find the gate until the farmer next door heard him shouting and showed him the way out. Maybe that's nothing. Maybe getting turned around in a familiar field just happens sometimes. But to me, it sounds like if you live anywhere around the southeast corner of England, it pays to have friends. I don't think it matters if that friend is a neighbor or a local you never see again. You just better have someone in case you get pixelated too. Wow, these three stories couldn't be any different from each other if they tried. Just goes to show you that a time slip or matrix glitch can happen to anyone at any time. So make sure that you have a trusted companion on speed dial at all times. Special thanks to InBetweener Barbie for sharing her story with us. If you can't seem to get enough of these timey-wimey stories and you want to hear more, just click right here. But do it right now so time doesn't slip them away too. Be careful out there, and I will see you here again on the In-Between.